You have entered the last lap of your preparation. And at this point of time, you have to run with all your might. And you cannot afford to give up in these last 30 days. The moment you get up the very next day, you are ready to execute that plan. Even if the first paper is not up to your expectation, you should not give up. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue which counts. So just continue.
Hello dear aspirants, I am Vishal Salsekar and I welcome you all to this special series of discussion organized by VisionIAS regarding UPSC CSAT Prelims 2024. So as there are less than 30 days remaining for the examination, the students are finding a lot of doubts and they are facing lack on confidence. So to discuss about this, I am joined by Ms. Smriti ma'am, who is the faculty of VisionIAS. Welcome ma'am.
Hi Vishal.
So ma'am, as there are less than 30 days remaining for the examination, and I think last time when we met there were around 2 months remaining.
Yeah.
So what are the different kind of challenges right now the aspirants is facing?
Vishal, in fact, thank you for inviting me for this conversation because I wanted to use this platform to interact with my students because of late I have been receiving a lot of mails, in fact, on a very daily basis. And most of the students with just 30 days left for the day, that's Prelims 2024, there are some problems which are very common to a very large section of students. So one, I want to highlight those problems, and second, I want to give that confidence to the students that you are not the only one who's facing those challenges. These are the challenges which largely is being faced by most of the aspirants. So one thing which I realized is performance anxiety. They are very anxious that whether they would be able to perform on the given day or not. That's one challenge. The second thing which I have discussed with you previously also, that they are getting overwhelmed because the magnitude of the content is so huge that they are not able to consolidate their preparation, and prioritizing the content is becoming a challenge. So whether it is your static, current, or it is conceptual or factual, often they are in this dilemma that which area needs to be focused more upon. And what I think is that some of them are low on confidence, which I don't blame them because many of them would be writing this exam for the very first time. And obviously, it's a huge exam. So there can be issues that either they have not written their mocks, or let us say the performance in the mocks is not as per their expectation. So overall, I think the confidence level is low. So I think these are the large challenges which I have observed in the aspirants.
So ma'am, now coming to the strategies to overcome these challenges. So because right now the time is very crucial and as well as limited also. So what are the suggestions that you want to provide on different aspects, like how a student should be practicing these days, how mock tests should be appeared for, PYQs should be attempted for, revision should be done for?
Okay. But I'll come down to you answering what you have asked me. Before that, I would just want the students to take a deep breath, go stand in front of the mirror, talk to yourself, and just tell yourself you can do it and you will do it. Because that kind of attitude is required to navigate through these 30 days. And here I would like to tell my students that you have entered the last lap of your preparation. And at this point of time, you have to run with all your might. And you cannot afford to give up in these last 30 days. But having said that, let's do one thing. Let's make your work easier. Let's try to chart out a strategy for you that what the students can do in these last 30 days. Now, I am not saying this is the hard and fast rule, but based on my experience, I can say let's follow a strategy or a rule 6:6:12. Now, what I mean by that is 6 hours of sleep is mandatory. You can increase it to 8 hours. So somewhere between 6 to 8 hours is decent enough, but nothing less than 6 hours. So it has to be minimum 6 hours of sleep. So 6 to 8 hours. Similarly, the second rule is 4 to 6 hours. In these 4 to 6 hours, you can include your power naps, you can include your breaks, you can include your food, whatever rest of the activities that can be done. But now comes down to the most important aspect, that is 12-hour rule. At this point of time, you cannot afford to have any distractions. You cannot afford to have any kind of issues with respect to, let us say, friendship or let us say relationships, whatever it is, that can wait for 30 days. So in these 30 days, you have to optimize your preparation without even wasting a minute of yours. So 12-hour rule is something which can be followed. Now, what can the students do is that if I would have been there in their place, I would have used the strategy 8:4. And let me just tell you what it is all about. 4 hours I would have dedicated to mocks. Now, here since you asked, so let me be very clear. Here, mocks does not just mean that you're writing a mock, like in a test format. It can be that you just picked up a paper and you are just solving the question. You just have to be in the habit of solving the question. Because what happens is, let us say in these 30 days, you did not practice your mock. And all of a sudden, then you sit for your prelims. So there would be a kind of detached attitude that should not be there. So mocks have to be practiced on a very daily basis.
Right.
Now what can be done, we'll discuss about the mocks later also, but what can be done is, since I've said 4 hours, you can have 2 GS mocks, or it can be 1 GS and 1 CSAT. Choice is yours. So that is kept aside. Now let us say we have remaining 8 hours. So here I would make a disclaimer, very quote unquote, no new material. Until and unless it is something which is in current. Obviously, current would be new only. So if there is something in current and it is important from examination point of view, that can be referred to. But as far as the portions that you have covered so far, there is no new material that you are going to refer. So here what you can do is that, if, as per my experience says, I always say UPSC has 4 pillars. You have polity, you have economy, you have history, you have geography. These are the 4 pillars which no one can move. It can happen some year the questions are less, some year it is more, but you cannot afford not to cover these 4 areas. Along with that, based on the trends of past 4-5 years, there are certain portions where the weightage is more than 50-60%. For example, environment and ecology. For example, science and tech, art and culture, ancient medieval, IR, the current based, or let us say mapping. So these are the areas which are very important, keeping the trend in mind. So what the students can do, let us discuss with the students. See students, you have 4 weeks to go. I am not saying that follow the same strategy, but it can help you to chart out your strategy. Let us say in first week, what you chose was polity. Now combine your polity with your IR and the current affairs. So this is how this area can be covered in first week. In the second week, you can cover your geography, all the static portions, everything that you've done, along with geography, environment and ecology, and club it with your current affairs. Then in your third week, you can cover your history, modern history, along with art and culture, ancient medieval, and the current related to art and culture. And in the fourth week, let us say economics, science and tech, and the current affairs. So this is how you can optimally utilize those 4 weeks. But having said that, there is something which we need to take care. This monthly planning has to be done beforehand. Exactly. And within this monthly plan, you have to come up with your daily targets. And as far as daily target is concerned, I'm telling you with my experience, you should now don't engage in making the targets in the morning. Because morning time for most of us is very crucial, where your productivity is very high. So at that time, you should think of executing the plan rather than making the plan.
Exactly.
So one piece of advice to everyone out there, whatever strategy you follow, suppose tomorrow you plan to do something, decide it beforehand. So that the moment you get up the very next day, you are ready to execute that plan. So this is the basic minimum which a student can do. As far as you highlighted about the revision plan, follow this trend in revision. But one piece of advice, do not touch a new subject, do not touch any new chapter, do not touch any new content. So whatever you have revised twice or thrice, just try to revise it in a more consolidated manner. That is what is required. So as of now, this is what I would like to suggest.
Right. So ma'am, consolidation is also the similar aspect, right? So as you are suggesting that for consolidation also, a student need to stick to whatever resources he or she might have referred to. As well.
Here, Vishal, I would like to intervene. What students can do, let us suppose they are reading a standard book, or let us say they have read their material, whatever they have prepared. So I am assuming that you've read it twice or thrice. So definitely you would have marked all the important content. So this time now, don't revise it from A to Z. What can be done is, keeping in mind the kind of questions which have been asked in the past, what they can do is just revise the highlighted content. That is one thing. Or second thing, what I was thinking, that for example, I'm not saying that you have to follow this, but I'm just saying as an example. For example, we have come up with this initiative, if you're aware of it, quick revision material for the subjects.
Yes.
So what we can do is that you've read your content. Now through that quick revision material, you can just glance through it. So everything that you have prepared, it can be properly registered and recalled. So that will give you a sense of confidence.
And even we had classes also for the quick revision.
Absolutely, yes.
So that also student can refer to. So now, ma'am, adding to this consolidation related aspect, I think mock can also be a better strategy to incorporate, like as you have suggested, that mock need not to be only attempted in a 1 to 100 wala manner. One need to go through the mocks as well as like topic related aspects, right? Yes. So that also I think a student can do. What are your suggestions?
Okay, fine. In fact, you have very rightly pointed out. So let's do one thing. Let's do it in the 3 format. The first thing that can be done is, let us suppose you're solving a mock in a proper examination format. So for that, it's a piece of advice. It's not necessary that you have to follow that. It's a piece of advice. Try to solve the mock the first thing in the morning. Let us say 9:30 to 11:30. Because that would be very similar to the timing of your examination. So you would know that how productively you are able to answer the question. That's one thing. The second thing that can be done is revise the mocks that you have already solved.
Right.
So that is also a way of solving the mocks only. So you can revise whatever you have solved. In fact, here I would like to point out that the students who are writing now All India Prelims Test Series, okay, so if they are a part of Sandhan initiative, so they can actually attempt for performance improvement test.
Exactly.
So that will also give them an edge over others. And the third thing is, you pick up the mock, or let us say your personalized mock which you create under Sandhan like initiative, and try to prepare or revise the content by means of the mocks. So mocks have to be judicially utilized, and these are the 3 ways in which it can be done.
So now I'm coming to the current affairs related things. So right now the students, or most of the students I may say, are confused that whether to continue with the newspaper right now or need to refer to whether monthly magazine or PT365 or any other sources. So what kind of advice do you have for the aspirants?
I think, Vishal, the advice I'm going to give, the students are not going to like it, but yes, I have to be saying this. If I would have been in their place, I would have continued reading newspaper. I might not have made the notes, but I would have read the newspaper, because you never know what will be asked in prelims. So and reading newspaper is not something which is being forced. By now it should become a part of your daily routine. That first thing that you do is looking into the newspaper, what's happening around. And that's the basic minimum we expect out of our aspirants. Okay? So reading newspaper is a given thing that you have to read it on a daily basis. Yes, not making the newspaper, and do not devote more than 30 minutes on the newspaper. That's a piece of advice. Second thing, if I would have been in their place, I'm sure I would have made my notes from the monthly magazine or the newspapers which I've been referring to, and I would have referred to those notes only.
Right.
So I would not pick up the magazine altogether again. Whatever notes I have prepared, I'll just glance through it. Or let us say students have not prepared the notes, then the best thing to refer can be PT365 or any other consolidated material that they have been referring. And in PT365, if they have read it once or twice, you will understand not everything has to be read. The moment you glance through the page, you know that this is what is important from UPSC point of view, and it has to be studied. So that can be taken care of.
Also regarding current affairs, there is a need for limitation of material, because one material can be read 10 times. Absolutely. That would be a better strategy, I think. So what do you want to advise?
I would definitely agree to it, and that's the given thing both for the static as well as current material. I have always believed that rather than reading 10 material, it is one material which has to be read 10 times, because at the end of it, recalling the content on the day of examination is very important. So yes, you have to revise more and more. So again, I'm saying until and unless it is something very new in the news, you are not supposed to refer to it. Whatever current you have prepared, whatever static you have prepared so far, you have to stick to that only. That's all.
So ma'am, now coming to the most crucial area, because if we see the last year's prelims examination, it was a kind of nightmare for the aspirants, which is CSAT. So regarding CSAT, ma'am, students are confused, like how many mock tests need to be appeared for, or else if we start from very beginning, like how to start preparation, because many of the students may be from science or even maybe from non-science background, they might be having certain kind of foundation regarding CSAT or the subjects that are being asked in CSAT, but not sure whether this year's CSAT how it is going to be there. So what kind of like strategy you want to suggest to the aspirant?
See, here I would just like to suggest them one thing: be prepared for unexpected. Okay? So let's be prepared for the worst case scenario that the history is going to repeat itself. And this year also, let's be prepared that the paper is going to be tough. So that whatever comes, it's not something which is a shock for us. We are prepared for it, one thing. Second thing is for CSAT, it totally depends where you stand. There are some students who are good with it, naturally good for it, but you don't have to take that preparation for granted.
Right.
So at least 2 mocks every week, so that before you are entering the examination hall, at least 8 papers you have written,
Right.
which can be the mocks of the coaching institute, or it can be your PYQs, provided you have not solved your PYQ.
Right.
On the other hand, let us assume a set of students who are not very confident with CSAT. So here I would suggest on a very daily basis, you have to write. Let us say you do not write on Saturdays or Sunday. So at least 5 papers have to be written. It can be a combination of PYQs as well as your the mock papers of the other institutes. That can be the most important thing which you have to keep in mind is, no matter what is your strength area, you never know what kind of paper you will get. It may be that you're very good with maths and you are actually banking upon that I will solve the question of maths, so
Right.
English is not a challenge for
Right.
me. The moment you enter the examination hall, you didn't know how to solve maths. Similarly, you were banking upon your English and you thought I will manage the comprehension. The questions can be highly subjective. Do not take anything for granted. What is required is know your strength, know your weakness, and accordingly solve the paper, whether you need to solve it on a daily basis or on alternate days or twice a week. But having said that, 8 to 10 mocks is the minimum that has to be written before you enter your examination hall.
Right. So what you are suggesting, ma'am, do not keep all the eggs in the single basket only.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the distribution is needed, because last year we had seen the maths was quite tricky.
Absolutely.
So student had to resort towards the reading comprehension.
Yes,
so I think
absolutely.
2 to 3 areas which are the prominent as far as CSAT is concerned, student need to at least having certain kind of idea that if one will not perform, then we can go
Absolutely,
to the
yes.
other areas. Right, ma'am. So now, ma'am, I think we have covered sufficiently regarding the these kind of aspects. But now the most important, and I would say most crucial area, which is the pressure management just before the examination. And this is the pressure that starts creating certain kind of stress and the anxiety in the students. And many of the students collapse in this particular last 30-day phase only. So what kind of advice you want to provide to the candidates to manage the pressure at this crucial juncture?
To reach to that stage where you are comfortable before writing the examination, there are many things which play its role, which many a times is very undermined or understated. First and foremost is the sleep pattern. There are a lot of students who prefer to study at night, but that cannot go on because you have to write your exam in the morning. So you have to change that sleep cycle, because even not having proper sleep or not having a proper sleep cycle can also create unnecessary pressure and anxiety.
Right.
And most importantly, to change a certain habit, minimum 21 days are required. So it is very important that from get-go situation, change that mode of sleeping. If you believe that all entire month you are studying at night and one random night you will think of sleeping before the exam, it will not happen. Entire night you will curse yourself, why am I not able to sleep? And that will largely impact your performance on the day of the exam. So one thing is your sleep pattern. Second most important thing, which is very underrated, and that is your food habits. At this point of time, having nutritious food is very important. Keeping yourself hydrated is very important. Why am I saying this is, let us assume that we have certain kind of vitamin deficiencies, like B12 नहीं है, vitamin D की deficiency हो रही है, हम hydrated नहीं हैं, तो फिर क्या होगा, एक certain point of time के लिए हम बहुत lethargic feel करेंगे.
Exactly.
And you will not be able to study, and again the pressure would start building up.
Right.
We actually don't lay emphasis on food habits and sleeping patterns, and most importantly, keeping yourself hydrated. Having 3 liters of water every day is mandatory. third most important thing which I want to highlight here is some part of physical activity. I know exam is nearing, you don't have time, but ऐसा नहीं है कि 24 घंटे में किसी के पास आधा घंटा नहीं है. So whether it is yoga, whether it is meditation, or it is a normal walk, just a very, you don't have to go for brisk walk or high intensity training, नहीं, वो सब कुछ नहीं. Just a normal walk in a park or in the garden, wherever, or even on your terrace, whichever places. उससे क्या होगा ना, थोड़ा एक mind को calm करने में, and to get that peace, it is very important. And last but not the least, I want to tell them they have to trust themselves. So here, I'll tell you something. I was reading about these Chinese bamboo trees. So let me just tell you, it was a very interesting fact about them. So with Chinese bamboo tree, it is being said, it takes approximately 5 years to grow. And in fact, in first 4 years, you have to water them, you have to fertilize them, but you will not be seeing any growth. So at that point of time, you might feel very demotivated. You might feel that you're putting so much of effort for past 4 years and you're not getting the result. And at this point of time, many people think of giving up. But if you persevere, if you continue, then in the very 5th year, within 6 weeks, they grow as tall as 80 feet. So what I'm just trying to say here is draw an analogy. You have put in so much of effort. वो एक कहावत नहीं है, हाथी निकल गया पूंछ रह गई है. So कहने की बात है, सिर्फ 30 दिन रह गए हैं. You just, अगर कभी भी लगे ना कि बहुत demotivation हो रहा है, तो मैं आपको बताती हूँ मैं क्या करती हूँ. Whenever I feel very demotivated, I'm not getting that kick or I'm not getting that zeal to do something, I just go stand in front of the mirror. And I just tell myself कि Smriti, you can do it. If others have done it, you can also do it. So whenever you are feeling demotivated, just stand in front of the mirror, talk to yourself, motivate yourself. You don't require anyone else in the world, not even me to motivate you. You are the best sole motivator of your life. Just trust yourself for once. And these 30 days, leave everything aside, give your best shot and not stop until you cross that finishing line.
So ma'am, that was very well said, because I have also heard that if you have some amount of time to cut any specific thing, first like most amount of time you will devote towards sharpening of your knife. So that is needed. Now coming to ma'am, another area which you have you have communicated to the aspirants that they need to communicate to themselves only right now. But I think support system is a very crucial aspect at this juncture, because many of the aspirants are feeling lonely and they are, or they might not be having anyone to communicate what they are feeling regarding the exam stress or any other stress. So what is the role of this peer group or let's say family at this particular point of time?
Okay, I was not expecting this question, but since you have asked, I'll tell you something. Now you must be very aware about the anecdotes in my life. So let me tell you another anecdote since you've asked this question. So again, it was my first attempt, and just a very brief background. So I was a Delhi University topper and I was from maths background, and there was this another friend of mine. She was also from Delhi University and her background was economics. So she was masters in economics from Delhi school. Okay. So we both were giving our exam. We were very good friends. So it was our attempt and we got the same center. So I was sitting and just behind me she was sitting. So she could see me, but I can't see her. So GS paper was going, everything was going fine. I'm talking about my experience in mains. So everything was going fine. It was my GS paper 1 and approximately 100-120 marks I had attempted, and I was very confident because everything was going well. Then I encountered a 12 marker.
Okay.
And in that 12 marker, the question was difference between repo rate and reverse repo rate. And you won't believe, I forgot the answer. But the issue was not that I forgot. The issue was my friend knew the answer because she is masters in economics. And I got panicked that one, I don't know a 12 marker, and the most important thing, she knows the 10 marker. I know my students would be judging me, but don't judge me. And that point, I realized the significance of that dialogue in Three Idiots. When your friend fails, you feel bad, but when they excel, you feel all the more bad. So I'll tell you the reason why I'm telling you this anecdote. So obviously, and that situation today, I can laugh about it, but that day was very bad for me because I just froze. And after that, I did not attempt my paper. It just blanked out. I got so stuck, I got so panicked that I just did not solve. It was just a 12 marker. I could have left and could have easily moved ahead. But I got so panicked that I did not utter or did not solve any further question. But anyway, exam was over and everything. And then my friend walked up to me and she was like, Smriti, I saw in between the examination, you stopped writing. What happened? I said, you would not believe. You would not believe what blunder I have done. She's like, kya ho gaya? What have you done? I said, you would just, detest me for this and everything. She's like, kya ho gaya, Smriti? So then I told her, you know what? I didn't remember the difference between repo rate and reverse repo rate. And she told me, Smriti, you would not believe, I also forgot the difference between repo rate and reverse repo rate. I was like, what? What did you say? I was like, your economics, your master's in economics from Delhi school, SRCC, how can you forget the difference? You know what she replied? She like, Smriti, instead of panicking, I thought, when masters in economics does not remember the difference, so what these mere mortals would be remembering the difference.
Right.
So all I'm just trying to say, it is the difference in your attitude. And that's what my friend taught me. So many a times having a right peer group, having the support of the family is very important. Because they give you the right teaching. Although my teaching came slightly late, the exam was already out of hand, but that was the most important learning which I got, that you have to have a positive attitude in life, because it's your attitude which will determine your altitude.
Exactly.
So never ever give up, because remember one thing, it is not over until it is over.
So, ma'am, that was very good summarization of what an aspirant should not do in general, and how he or she should be appearing or approaching towards the examination and these kind of unexpected situation, because it can happen with anyone. So now, ma'am, coming to the D-Day related preparation, like what should and what should not be done by an aspirant before or just on the day of examination. Any piece of advice from your side?
I would just say few things. One, most importantly, you have to get up on time. You cannot have those excuses कि आपका alarm नहीं बजा and all that stuff. So in that case, you have to inform everyone who's around you to wake you up on time, much before time. Reach your center. In fact, I would suggest you can visit the center once before the examination, so that on the day of the examination, you're not lost. You know where is your center. And you have to reach there on time. Just have every stationery in place, so that on the day of the examination, in the examination hall, your pen and all, everything is working. You should carry a water bottle. Okay? You should carry something in your bag, so that during the break time, whatever nutrition is required, whatever hydration is required, that is there with you. And most importantly, you need to remember, it might happen that after the first examination, it did not go as per your expectation. But then you need to realize that it is a relative performance which matters.
Right.
So even if the first paper is not up to your expectation, you should not give up. Because you never know that if you do well in your next paper, that is your CSAT. You are the one who's qualifying and whose marks would be calculated.
Right.
So in this given situation, I'll again reiterate, do not give up at any point during the examination. And most important thing which I have noticed, and which I think students have experienced, that let us suppose I started solving. I remember in one of my prelims experience, the beginning questions were all from environment and ecology. And I have some kind of fear. I just looked at the question. I was like, sorry, I don't know these questions. So then I flipped through the page and I used to search for polity and modern Indian history, because they were my comfort zone. And the moment I start solving polity, the moment I start solving modern Indian history, it used to give me a sense of confidence. And then everything slowly and gradually starts falling in place. So all I'm just trying to tell the students is that, let us suppose you've encountered certain questions in the beginning that you don't know. Start from the last. Let us say you've encountered questions in the end which also you don't know. Start somewhere from the middle. But do not give up at any point of time. So these are the very basic things which have to be kept in mind.
That was very good.
And most importantly, do not discuss the paper after the paper is done, because there would be a lot of people there and they might be discussing कि इसका ये answer होना चाहिए, ऐसे होना चाहिए. सुनो ही मत. Just don't pay any attention to what they are saying, because even this time, the institutes are not able to predict the answer for the prelims. So it has become some kind of a joke. So UPSC has altogether their different key. Nobody was expecting the cutoff will be so low, but it went to the lowest in the history, that's 75. So what I'm just trying to say is, do not discuss anything during the examination. Just give your exam, relax, come back home, and then you can do whatever you want.
And even I have seen like some of the aspirants are like checking the sheets and checking the key in between the paper, like between the GS and CSAT also.
Exactly, you don't have to do that. You absolutely not.
Right, ma'am. So, ma'am, that was very good discussion. So, before leaving this platform, what kind of like last piece of motivation that you want to give to the aspirants, and a kind of like best wishes for the examination?
See, I just want to tell that if you have dreamt of something, you have to live up to that vision. So just believe in yourself that success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue which counts. So just continue.
So thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you again for joining us and giving us certain insightful tips that will be very crucial for the aspirants and also that will be very helpful for the aspirants for the coming prelims examination.
Thank you so much, Vishal.
Thank you, ma'am. So with this, we came to an end to this particular session. So stay tuned with VisionIAS for such further sessions, and we wish you all the very best for the upcoming prelims examination. Thank you.